blue turfed end zones got plenty of action tonight. 13 total touchdowns and a 56-34 win for Tennessee football over Kentucky here at Kroger Field. My name is Trevor McGee, joined alongside Alex Sarkis. And Alex, somebody may have just scored while I was saying that.
I think they did, and I think you just got head topped by one of the Kentucky receivers. But anyway, let's talk about just the offensive explosion that we saw tonight, and specifically that first half. I mean, Tennessee puts up the most points that they've put up in a first quarter since the Georgia game. I mean, everything was working, and Kentucky was really doing the same thing there as things got going in the first half. But I want to take a look at the middle eight here, because I think that's where Tennessee really pulled away in this game. You have the end of the game, or the end of the first half. Tennessee's going down. They hope to get a field goal. Time's running out. We've seen Josh Heupel have some mismanagement of the clock in those situations, so there was some worry around that. But then Tennessee gets a big play down into the red zone, and then boom, there's Ethan Davis wide open to the end zone with 4 seconds left, and that got Tennessee out of that one score cushion that they had. But the way Kentucky was scoring, you wanted to get a nice deficit or a nice cushion going into the half, and then they come out and they score 3 straight touchdowns on 3 straight drives, and that really put this game out of hand. And the way that the Wildcats were moving up and down the field, they really needed those points.
Absolutely. If you're a fan of offense, you love this game. If you're a fan of football, you probably just hated this game for the fact that the crowd was very light. We kind of expected that. There was plenty of rain pregame. The atmosphere was never, frankly, going to be there, but it was an ugly game, even regardless of how many touchdowns were scored. Tennessee's defense looked really bad, and that's something that we've consistently been able to say throughout the year. Tennessee gave up nearly 500 yards of offense, and the worst part about that is that's not even the most they've given up this season, and it felt like at times that they had their worst showing of the year, and that's concerning when you're 8 games in.
And the Tennessee defense is lucky that they've got those splash plays this year. They've got a decent amount of defensive touchdowns. Idris Farouk tips the ball to himself there in that first half and takes it back for 6. Really, without those points, this game is probably a lot closer. We don't know how momentum goes from there. And really, Tim Banks' guys have really bailed themselves out with those defensive scores this year, but you can't always rely on those. And, you really got to start stopping other teams, because this is not going to, be a good scene down this stretch with some teams that can actually play some defense.
Yeah, Tennessee wins the turnover battle tonight, which is a huge part of it. And the even more notable thing that I think may go overlooked is the fact that Tennessee gets 2 turnovers. They score off of both of those turnovers. Sure, it's aided by the fact that Idris Farouk did it all on his play. He jumps in the air, very athletic play, catches it or tips it to himself, is able to track it, bring it down, and take it 45 yards in the other direction. But at the same time, Tennessee got another play, maybe the craziest play of the season. Not quite sure how much it can compare, but the ball gets fumbled 2 separate times. Kentucky manages to lose 15 yards on it going back on the initial fumble, and then out of nowhere, Boo Carter comes up, just annihilates Jabari Macklin, and Jaden Perlotti jumps on the ball, learns from his mistake of last week, didn't bat it, he picks it up at the 12-yard line, and then Kentucky commits a personal foul, adds it half the distance to the goal, so Tennessee takes over at the 6-yard line, and sure, you can claim it being an easy drive because you only had to go 6 yards, but Tennessee's scoring off of turnovers has been a real struggle this season, and the fact that they forced 2 turnovers tonight and they score 14 points gives you some promise, because as you mentioned, Tim Banks' unit has not looked the greatest this year, and the only reason they've been able to look competitive in a game is because they force these big play turnovers. And when they're able to force the turnovers, you have to score points, and Tennessee did that tonight, and that's why they're able to walk away from Kroger Field, not in the agony of defeat, but rather in the clobbering of wins.
And we haven't even touched on the receivers yet, have we? I mean, Tennessee is 3 guys. Their big trio, all of them have over 100 yards tonight, and that's a thing that hasn't happened since 2019 against Missouri. So the Tennessee offense is firing on all cylinders right now. And, really, if that defense picked things up, this would be a team that I think Tennessee fans would feel a lot better about. But now you stare down the barrel of an Oklahoma team that can play some defense. Here they come to Neyland Stadium next week. So it's a tall task, but man, it's really a positive thing. These receivers are all capable of doing it, but to see them all do it here on the road, yes, against a very weak Kentucky defense, but they did their job, and I think that's the important thing here tonight.
Absolutely, and you have to talk about the guy that commanded that all. Joey Aguilar had his probable best performance during his very short Tennessee career. It's only been 8 games, but somehow he's seemingly improved most of the time. Last week had a rough outing against Alabama. but it's really promising. He comes out, goes 20 for 26 with 396 passing yards and 3 touchdowns there, and he feeds it to basically the only 3 receivers that Tennessee plays in a football game, and they all get their wealth. And you have Brazel, who makes his big plays countless times. Joey Aguilar just drops it in the bucket. Like, you, as a receiver, I obviously don't play, but I would imagine that you would think getting a ball right here is just being handed most perfect outcome for you.
And there was a point tonight that I looked, and Tennessee was averaging over 20 yards per pass attempt. I mean, that's something obviously you don't see in this conference a lot. So, you know, that's a big deal, and they're going to need to keep doing that kind of stuff. Probably not at that rate, but surely help down the line.
Yeah, there was plenty of concern for some, I would say, coming on the road again. It's back-to-back road games. Tennessee typically avoids doing back-to-back road games because it is a struggle to have that come about. You go on the road to Alabama last week, you're totally outplayed. There was never a chance where that was competitive. But then you come out and you build upon a bunch of things that you struggled with last week. You score off turnovers. You get in the end zone. That's something they didn't really do last week. They scored 20 points. Their receivers get involved. They didn't have a single play, I believe, a single passing play over 20 yards last week. They come in and have like 5.
They average that,
yeah,
basically.
They average per pass play 20 yards. So the fact that they're able to build upon losses and come on the road back-to-back, or go on the road back-to-back weeks and improve on the things that they didn't do well in a road game shows a lot of promise, because now you get the beautiful thing of going back to your home field where you've had plenty of success in the past, and you have a really tough opponent, as always in the SEC, because it is a professional league in college athletics now. But you have Oklahoma, who comes to town, who's going to look for vengeance because they just lost the home game to Ole Miss. It sets the stage for a really tough game, and Tennessee did a lot tonight that proves that maybe they'll be ready for it this time.
And we'll see if they can carry it next week, 7:30 Eastern, just announced at Neyland Stadium. So primetime football. Could you ask for anything better?
We'll see you then.